Throw me the ball and watch what I do with it.
You are now tuned into the Cherry Pickin podcast with your host, Andre Cherry.
Hey everybody, thank you for downloading another episode of the CherryPickin podcast. I'm your host, Andre Cherry, and on today's show, we got a special treat here for you all. Casey Kane, my good friend Casey Callanan, has dropped by the CherryPickin studios, and him and I are going to talk a little bit of the college football playoffs, talk about this coaching carousel in college football, and just any other really topics that come up along the way, through the natural discourse of our conversation. But Casey, man, I just want to say what's up, man. Thank you for hopping on here.
Hey, Andre, it's bowl season. We just got to do the Army-Navy game, and then we're ready to rock and roll with the postseason.
Yeah, man, the Army-Navy games this weekend. I would love to go to that game, though, man. I've never been to the Army-Navy game. That's like a bucket list item for me. I know for a lot of folks that love college football, probably like yourself, like it's a big honor, just to watch that game in person. And they usually play it in Philly at the Lincoln Financial Field. I was blanking for some reason, but I've never had a chance to go. Hopefully next year, I think it's back in Philly. I would love an opportunity to see that live.
Yeah, it's usually Baltimore, New York, New Jersey, and then Philly is the most notable locations that I can remember. It said last year was at West Point, though, because of the COVID situation. But in the going back to 1983, the Army-Navy game has been in either East Rutherford, New York, New Jersey, whatever. It's so stupid they play in New Jersey when the team's from New York. Different story for a different time. But yeah, it's been in either Jersey/New York, West Point, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and 1 year it was in Landover, Maryland, which is right outside of Washington, D.C. So since 1983, it's only been in like 3 or 4 locations.
83.
And in 83, it was in Pasadena for some reason. But but I would say predominantly it's held in Philadelphia, like almost way more than anything else.
Yeah, man, I gotta find a way to get some credentials to that game, man.
Why do you think it's in Philly?
It's not in Philly this year, but usually I thought next year it's in Philly. I thought.
Yeah, it probably is. But why? I'm asking, why is it always in Philadelphia? Just because it's a midway point between the two campuses?
That could be. I actually don't know the historical reason why, but I'll take it. I like that it's in Philly. That's usually a good weekend when they're here.
Yeah.
But I would love to somehow get credentials. But my biggest problem right now is the fact that I do this podcast show. I love doing the Cherry Pickin podcast, but I think a lot of people think this is some sort of gambling site. The content that I provide, I don't typically do it for gambling purposes. I like to make predictions to see if I'm right, but I'm not like betting against the spread or telling you got to bet this. I'm just making predictions. So that's been a little bit of a battle over here at CPE, my man.
Oh, wow.
Trying to get
trying
to get those
behind the
credentials
scenes now with some CPE.
Yeah.
Cherry Pickin entertainment logistics.
Yeah, so next year I may have to adjust the strategy of how I do my show. Yeah. But, I just love doing college football. I know you are a big college football fan as well. It's crazy that I think this might be the first time I've had you on this season. And I usually try to have you on a few times throughout the season. I know our schedules have been busy. For myself, working a full-time job and being a dad, it's tough. But
yeah, I have a creative idea.
What's that?
For next time Zola misbehaves when she's a little older, Zola, your daughter, if she misbehaves, I have a good creative punishment idea.
What's that, man?
Make her watch the Bahamas Bowl.
The Bahamas Bowl? This year? Are you looking at the schedule for this year?
Yeah.
I actually have it up right now. And in the Bahama Bowl, Middle Tennessee versus Toledo.
Yeah. Make her watch that as punishment.
Yeah, man. They got some crazy bowls this year, and like I have the list up right now in front of me. The Bahamas Bowl, I probably won't be able to catch that one at 12 p.m. on the 17th of December, but I am excited for the Cure Bowl, 10-2 Coastal Carolina versus 9-4 Northern Illinois. We know
Oh, you
North,
want to talk sleeper bowls? Let's talk
yeah,
some good. Yeah, I mean, now that we got the joking out of the way, making fun of some of the lesser known matchups, let's crack down some good sleeper bowls because that's what I was looking at. So
yeah.
you're saying that Coastal NIU Huskies game, that's the first night of bowl action. You're saying get mid Tennessee and Toledo out of the way, and you want to settle in for a little NIU Husky ball.
Yeah, and back to that Bahamas Bowl, Toledo usually puts up some offense. So I mean, that's going to be an interesting game. I don't have.
Oh, you're
I,
gonna watch it?
I'm not going to watch it. I'll probably be honestly at that time. I'll be working, but that matchup is intriguing to me. But
Yeah.
Toledo, I would say they're going to put up some points because they usually do. But I'm really excited about that Cure Bowl and that first night that you had mentioned there,
Yeah.
Casey.
Yeah.
Northern Illinois, we know that team well. Coach Thomas Hammock, he is a Coach of the Year finalist, the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year award. I actually get a vote in that this year. I'm gonna put his name down as a coach that I'm gonna select as the Coach of the Year in college football. Man, dude,
Who? The
Thomas
NIU
Hammock
guy?
at
From
NIU.
NIU?
Yeah, man, this guy. So they went 0-6 in 2020. They didn't win a game
Whoa.
last year.
Well, 2020 was a crazy year. I don't even consider it like it was so wild. Like, well, what were they in 2019?
So this is Coach Hammock's. I don't know if this is his second year or if it's his third year at the helm, but I think
Yeah.
it was his. Yeah, it's his third year now. Last year they went 0-6, didn't win a game. The COVID season. This
Yeah.
year they went 9-4. They won the MAC this year. They went from last place to first place in a season. They're
Okay. Yeah, even though it was a COVID year, I guess if you put a big goose egg and then you win the conference, that is pretty cool, actually. I'll shut up.
yeah, man. I'm gonna vote for him because that's a great turnaround. I actually know him. I met him back at a junior day when I was a young CherryPickin in high school playing football. I had an opportunity to go to a junior day at Wisconsin up in Madison. And
Okay.
my dad and I went up there. This was when Coach Alvarez was still up there. Brett Bielema was, I think, the OC at the time. My guy Owen Daniels, he was there. He was actually on the team. He gave me a
Dang.
little what's up, like a head nod, because I was wearing my Letterman jacket. But
Okay.
Coach Hammock, he actually came up to my dad and I. We were eating lunch, like they catered
Okay.
some sort of lunch there. He gave me his card. He talked to me. And Coach Hammock, he was a running back at NIU, a great running back. He had some health problems, so he had to step away from the game in that capacity. But this guy's a football coach through and through. He was with the Ravens like a couple of years ago, man. He I think he was a running back coach. He loves football, man. I'm rooting for the NIU Huskies, and I'm rooting for him, man.
Thomas Hammock, 2019, hired at NIU directly off being the running back coach at the Ravens, who are ferociously known for their running game. So they're like, this guy was such a good running back coach. Let's just make him the head coach at NIU. I love it. And he, struggled in the first 2 years, not even his players at first, of course. But yeah, going 9-4, 6-2 in the conference after the 0-6 season, COVID or not COVID, that's an incredible turnaround. I support your vote for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, man.
Hat tip to Thomas Hammock.
And his whole mentality is like, no one cares what your excuse is. Like, do better, be better, like get it done, So
Was Hammock a physical running back?
oh yeah, man. He was a
He
body.
looks like a
Yeah.
bruiser.
Yeah, I mean he's a big guy now, but he, smaller dude back in the day. Of course, he was shifty. He was good. This
Oh,
may have
wow.
been a little before our time, Casey. Like I remember him kind of towards the tail end when I was, just we're young kids at the time.
Yeah,
But he kind of
2002.
he ushered in some good running backs at that school. Garrett Wolf came in probably right after him. But like they've had some good running backs. They've had some success at NIU. I think they've won like 6 MAC championships in the last 11 years. This is the first time since 2018. for a long
Whoa.
time. NIU was that team in Illinois, man. Like the best team in Illinois was this MAC school
They're back.
up in DeKalb, Illinois. DeKalb.
They're back. Did Michael Turner go there too?
Yeah,
Right?
Michael the Burner Turner. He might have been right after Thomas Hammock, to be
That
honest.
guy was awesome.
So yeah, they've had some great running backs there, man. That's a great program, and it's cool to see them back up on top.
Michael Turner or Darren Sproles? Who you got as the best mini running back of that era?
See, that it's kind of like offensive because Michael Turner, he's small in height, but his stature, he's like a giant, dude. Have you seen that guy? He was so thick. Like he was a
He's
big
wide.
running back.
He's
Yeah.
wide. Yeah, you're right. They're not a good comparison.
But I mean, yeah, it's hard to select. But Darren Sproles, man, that dude, he had a great career in college and also in the pros.
Yeah.
That's tough, man. But Burner the Turner, man, he was a long-time Atlanta Falcon running back. He was great.
Turner was 5'10", 245.
That's a big boy, man.
Wow.
But yeah, that's so not to get off track here, but Cure Bowl is the one that I'm looking at. What bowls have your interest, man?
Well, yeah, I really like looking at the early games because you're just like, there's that huge gap between the championship Saturday and the bowl season. So it really, if you can get a nice game in there, like you're talking about with Northern Illinois on that first night, that's just a win-win. After that, Saturday, December 18th, kind of drops off a little bit, other than you got BYU playing, which they had an interesting season. So it'll be good to see them on that next week where you got the holiday week kind of starts off December 20th, that Monday. The bowl games are going kind of full force up until Christmas. There's not really too many games that really caught my eye up until you talk about I want to see on December 23rd, UCF versus Florida. I think the battle of Florida kind of is, college football is kind of hurting right now in Florida, the state of Florida overall, which is very shocking because of how many great high school athletes come out of Florida. But right now, you got UCF in Florida, and that's like a big bragging rights game because Florida had such a rough season, and UCF, they've kind of been the team in Florida for the last few years.
Yeah, and that bowl game that Casey's talking about is the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl, Florida versus UCF. Florida kind of limped, to the finish line this season. Their head coach got fired, Dan Mullen. They started with high expectations and they finished, pretty lackluster performance there towards the end of the season. That was one game that I had circled on my calendar as well. Just like you said, kind of bragging rights type thing. UCF is definitely going to get up for that. I'm sure Florida, we'll see if they're as excited or as enthusiastic about that matchup, but that should be a good game for sure. Yeah.
What did UCF do this year? Did they have a nice year?
To be honest, I think everything Cincinnati did, because they come out of the American Conference, both of those teams, I think it was overshadowed by what Cincinnati did because everybody had eyes on Cincinnati. Cincy just steamrolled everybody pretty much in its path this year. So
steamrolled them.
Yeah, I mean they did enough to earn a bowl bid, but I don't think I mean that's nothing to laugh at. 8-4 record's pretty good. Yeah.
That's solid. And that's the first year, I believe, with their new head coach, Gus Malzahn,
from old Auburn head coach for a long time.
Oh yeah. So that was in my opinion, that's a really smart hire by UCF. I think you're going to see the UCF Knights get back into the mix. I think you're going to start to see them, challenging Cincinnati, challenging Houston. I love what's going on in that conference. It's exciting. I don't know about you, man. I know that this is going to make me sound like a crazy guy, but on Saturday, I was more interested in the Cincinnati-Houston game than I was watching the SEC championship. I mean, I'm a unique guy. I just like seeing different kind of things. I know the branding of football is huge in the SEC, but I was so excited to see an at home conference kind of championship game. You see the neutral site games, and those have their own kind of fun appeal to them. They're in these big NFL stadiums. But you had Cincinnati, the sun was setting at that on-campus Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati. You had a huge high-stakes game in conference in this non-Power 5 conference. And you're seeing, Houston and Cincinnati playing in front of a packed stadium, electric atmosphere. And the first half was highly competitive. It was like, is Houston going to do this? Are they going to play spoiler? With all the things going on, it looked to me like Bama was really, even though Georgia was up in the beginning stages of the game, I just didn't have any doubt that was Bama's day. And I was like, this Bama game, to me, fait accompli. Bama's going to roll, and SEC is going to get two teams in the playoff. But I really have my eye on that Houston versus Cincy game. That was an exciting, unique atmosphere.
Yeah, and the score was 35-20 in that Cincy versus Houston game. Houston was ranked number 21 at the time. That was the second team that Cincy played this season that was ranked. And so everybody thought that because they beat Notre Dame, they could just breeze through to the end of the season. And that's not true. I mean, there are some tough teams in the American. Houston is one of those teams for sure. And I'm with you there, Casey. Like, I was more interested in the Cincy versus Houston matchup because I feel like there was more on the line for Cincinnati. The folks that are on that committee, I'm sure, probably didn't want to give Cincinnati a shot at the playoffs. Like, they begrudgingly put them where they were so that they could either play themselves in or play themselves out. Fortunately, things fell the right way. They played themselves in, but that was a big time game. Like, everything was riding on that game, Cincy versus Houston, because had they lost, they would have been out. They would not be in the discussion.
You got to tip your cap to the Houston Cougars and what Dayton Holgerson's been able to do with them since leaving West Virginia. I'm very impressed with what Houston's been doing. I know that the Big 12 is going to have to regroup when they lose Texas and Oklahoma. And honestly, if they can get the likes of Cincy, Houston, BYU in there, UCF, they're even talking about, if they can get four teams like that in the conference, and you see how well Oklahoma State and Baylor are playing, Big 12 is not going to be a non-Power 5 when they lose Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, it was incredible to see those teams step up. I think the future is bright for Big 12 football, and geographically, it's going to be a little bit more for West Virginia, at least. It's not going to be as crazy. I don't think, the travel when they get these new teams in there, except for the BYU scenario.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting for the Big 12. I wonder if there's any sort of remorse from Texas or Oklahoma for their decision to go to the SEC. I mean, they're going to have their work cut out for them. Definitely. I mean, it's big for the brand.
Especially Texas.
Yeah. Texas is in a worse spot than Oklahoma is by far. Oklahoma been one of the better teams in the Big 12 for a very long time. And it's just like, you're going to give that all up to start over. I mean, you want to play with the big boys. I get it, but damn, man, that's tough.
I think Oklahoma plays like a SEC team. I think they're going to be okay. They're going to be able to hang in. And I just don't think they're going to be, Oklahoma, as long as the playoff format has been four teams, Oklahoma's kind of had that, I don't want to say easy path to the championship, but I mean, if you want to be honest and call a spade, they're not playing the same quality of schedule that in Alabama, Georgia, and LSU had to play to get into that playoff. They're playing a much softer schedule. Now, when Oklahoma gets into the Big 12, I think they're going to be better week in, week out by playing such great competition, but I don't think you're going to see Oklahoma in a championship game for a long time because the competition, they're going to get beat up before they get to that chance.
I agree with you there. And, you're talking about the playoffs and, why don't we just dive right into this year's playoffs?
Before we do, was there any other sleeper bowl games you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. Don't sleep on that Jimmy Kimmel Bowl, man. That Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl.
Oh, really? Okay.
Utah State versus Oregon State. I'm just messing around. That name is crazy. Like, I'm just looking at the list.
Oh, I didn't know what it was. I thought, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel
I
LA
mean,
Bowl.
that's crazy because you're seeing some real creative sponsorships in these early bowl games. Obviously, you have the first time ever Barstool Sports is sponsoring a game. You got the Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl. You got the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl. I mean, they're getting real creative with these sponsors. And like, it's always fun when you have. It's always interesting when you just straight up don't even have like a bowl game name. Like, I get it. Like, you have like Barstool Arizona Bowl. At least you could say, hey, we won the Arizona Bowl. And you have the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl, but it's actually a bowl game name, right? It's like, it's not just the Jimmy, it's the LA Bowl, right?
Yeah, his name is just in front of it, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's the LA Bowl.
So it's the LA Bowl. But when you look at the one that West Virginia's in, and you look Guaranteed Rate Bowl, and you look at the Cheez-It Bowl, I mean, that's not even trying to have like a name to it, you know? Like,
Or the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl.
yeah. Why you want some sort of continuity with the name of the bowl? You know, I understand that the sponsorships are going to change, you know, every couple years or so at the least, but you definitely want to have at least some sort of, even if the name gets super long, I think you want to have that because then, you know, because I believe West Virginia won an Arizona Bowl game not an Arizona Bowl, a Cactus Bowl, I think it was called a couple years back. And the Cactus Bowl, I believe, is now transitioned into being called just the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. So you're like,
Yeah.
okay, like you want to know, okay, in 2017, we won this game, but it just makes it really hard to like remember any of the bowl like history.
Yeah, man. I'm actually excited. That's actually a good matchup, West Virginia versus Minnesota. That should be really interesting game. I'm going to be watching that. NC State.
That's a tough matchup for West Virginia. I think they're gonna be that's gonna be a dogfight.
Yeah, oh yeah. And because Minnesota can run the ball really well. They're playing good football. I mean, they kind of had a letdown towards the end of the season for them. I mean, they had an opportunity to win the Big Ten West, and they kind of dropped that opportunity. But I mean, they're in a bowl game against West Virginia. That'll get some views, man. That's a nice little bowl game.
10:15 kickoff Eastern. Most West Virginia fans are on the Eastern time zone. That's a little bit
it's late.
Tough. Yeah,
on a work night.
That's late. I mean, it's the holidays, so you think some people are going to be unable to watch it. Minnesota's on the Central time zone, so yeah, I don't know if like it's going to be that well rated on television, but the matchup that's a strong matchup.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll probably watch the first half of that game. Maybe. Yeah. That's kind of late for me. I'll definitely be watching the NC State versus UCLA matchup, which is on the same day, December 28th at 8 p.m. And they're playing that bowl game inside Petco Park. So two things I love the most, NC State and Petco Park. And I wish I had an opportunity to go watch that game because if I was in California or San Diego, I probably would be there for sure. NC State had a good season this year, second in the Atlantic. UCLA played really well. They're back, I guess. Some speculation there that Chip Kelly may bounce. Have you heard that speculation?
Where would he go?
To Oregon. There's speculation that
back to Oregon.
The Ducks may want him back, but I'll be glued into that game. I'm sure UCLA is excited. They haven't been bowling in quite some time. So that's going to be a fun game that I'll definitely be watching there.
Are you thinking Brian McClellan is like they're not going to hire him full time? Like, you don't think he's got a chance as the interim head coach right now at Oregon?
I mean, I guess he has a chance because he's there right now, but I mean, who are they playing?
They're going to go a little bit bigger of a splash. You know, they're going to try and get that big. I mean, Chip Kelly would move the needle for sure. Chip Kelly would move the needle. But do you think that's a little bit of a linear? It's kind of like a linear move for Chip Kelly. Like, is that really that big a step up to go back to Oregon?
I think it's a step up for any coach because of the money that is pumped into that program. I'm actually surprised Mario Cristobal left from Oregon to Miami because I think the Oregon job is a better job right now for a while. And I think Mario Cristobal, certainly he's got ties to Miami and deep ties to Miami. So he wanted to come back home. But that Oregon job is nice, man. That's real nice. Real solid money coming in there. All the merchandise. Like that's a good little school I would like to be at. Big school, but I would love to be up there if I was a head coach.
I'm gonna propose this. I might not make a lot of fans up in Oregon, but I think if Brian McClellan can beat Oklahoma in that Alamo Bowl,
he's got a job.
You talk about a high energy coach. You talk about a guy that played the game. He was a star at Georgia, I believe, at UGA, and then he had a sniff in the NFL with the Bears. This guy's young. He's energetic. That's going to be a long-term answer. I think you can get if he wins that game. I honestly think if you're Oregon, you got to give him the guy a chance. Come on now.
That would be a big time opportunity. And maybe they're waiting to see how he does in that bowl game. Cause it's a big matchup against Oklahoma.
That's a big matchup.
And against Coach Bob Stoops. You hear about that? He's coming back to coach for a game.
That's a mind-blowing game. That is insane. Nobody's talking about that enough. That Bob Stoops, the 2000 national champion Bob Stoops, is back.
I mean, I'm sure the fans in Oklahoma down there in Norman love the fact that Bob Stoops is coming back to coach a game.
Yeah.
As somebody on the outside looking in, I don't know that I like that so much. Give it to somebody else that on the staff that is still there that maybe, could get some experience coaching a game. Brent Venables, he is the head coach. He'll be coming on next year, and he actually coached with Bob Stoops from 99 to 2011. So he's coming home. But it's splashy. It's flashy. It's we're bringing back Bob Stoops. He was an analyst with Fox a week ago, and now he's coming back to coach a bowl game. I don't know, man. I feel
I've never seen that in my life.
What, a coach come back to coach?
A coach that did not coach during the regular season, doesn't know the players, hasn't been in the program. I'm just saying he doesn't know players. I'm not saying he doesn't follow the team. I'm just saying he hasn't been in that locker room since training camp or, whatever they call it in college football in the beginning of August or whatever, those dog days. He hasn't been there. That's crazy.
He's just going to pop in, man.
He's
Kramer.
just popping in.
But that's what's crazy. So it has happened before. Barry Alvarez.
It's a marketing move. It's got to be a marketing move.
For sure, man, to get you excited. Your head coach, Lincoln Riley, this hot coach in college football just leaves. What can we do to keep the fan base up? Oh, let's bring back Bob Stoops. This guy's won championships. We'll bring him back from Fox to play, to coach a game. I get it from that perspective. Barry Alvarez did it at Wisconsin. He's coached bowl games. I think he's coached 2 bowl games before as not the head coach previously.
Wait, they just brought him off TV to coach?
Well, so Barry, he's got a little bit.
He's the head. He was the AD, though.
He was the AD. So he's still around that team. Yeah. They love him down there in Madison. So that's a different situation. But I have my problems with that as well, because I feel like Barry Alvarez, he's too big of a brand. Barry Alvarez, he's a legend. So he probably overshadows a lot. And he's just too connected. You kind of want, you had your time, Barry. Just, can you move on? Can I coach and do my thing? But he's beloved there. He's a legend, just like Bob Stoops is. So I get it from that perspective.
There's absolutely, correct me if I'm wrong, there's absolutely 0% chance that Bob Stoops win or lose as the head coach of Oklahoma Sooners football next fall.
Yeah, so that's not going to happen at all. They have their coach, Brett Venables. He from Clemson.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so that's absolutely not going to happen. But Brett, he worked with Bob Stoops for a while back in the day. He's one hell of an assistant. He was at Clemson, but yeah, there's no way it's happening. It's just like you said, just something flashy, something nice for the fans this holiday season, man.
The coaching carousel in college football is unlike any other sport, and it gets super awkward.
Yeah, let's dive right into that, man.
Exactly. I actually texted you a week ago after a lot of this Brian Kelly stuff happened. I'm like, Andre, I got to talk with you, coaching carousel. This is this is getting out of hand. I mean, it's been like that for a while, I think for a long time, people were always like, what is this going on? The money is so high that coaches are just, everything becomes a pit stop. Let's win 3 years at, a max school so we can win 4 years in the Big 12 and then get hired at the SEC for a career. It's like everyone was always using college football as a stepping stone. But now with the bowl games, like almost people like the bowl games are so like people aren't even taking them serious.
They're meaningless.
They're not, but like it's not meaningless. You're putting a kid on the field that has a chance to get drafted, that has a chance to suffer an injury that could end their career. You have all these medical issues that could happen. There are stakes in these games. These are not exhibition matchups. They're not playing touch football. These are high, like important, in my opinion, games that should be taken way more serious than just like coaches being allowed to just dip. I mean, it's crazy.
I agree with you because they're spinning it that way that, oh, this game means something. We made it to a bowl game. That's what you usually play for, to go to a bowl game. You put in the grind during the season. Your reward is the bowl game for you, for your fan base, everyone associated with that program. That should be a huge reward, a big reward. But these days, coaches are not taking it that seriously. And I know people will say, well, we've had players, step out of bowl games because they don't want to get hurt. They're thinking about themselves. Well, yeah, they're thinking about themselves because they're going to the NFL. Like they want to further their careers. If they get hurt, it's done. But these coaches, they can just bounce. We've seen coaches like Brian Kelly I'm out. Like Notre Dame was still in the running potentially to make the playoffs. And Brian Kelly is like, I'm going to LSU. Peace. Forget y'all.
I'm going to ask you some questions that are on my mind because you're the expert here and I don't know as much about this as you. So in the instance of Oklahoma, they brought in Stoops. Is that because they don't want to have someone that was on the dude who left's former staff coach that game because the new guy coming in is going to clear house?
So in this situation, like I said, Brett Venables is coming in, but in that situation for Oklahoma specifically, maybe they know that whoever they bring in is going to clean house. They just want a clean slate. So they're not going to give anyone an opportunity to shine on Lincoln Riley's, previous coaching roster, on this coaching staff, especially the way that Riley just bounced out like that, kind of disrespectfully. That's a big deal to a program like Oklahoma that loves football, loves winning, and he's just going to leave to take USC. It probably hurt their feelings, and they're probably like, forget this guy. No one is going to get that shot to coach in an interim basis. We'll just bring in one of our own, Bob Stoops, and he'll do it.
So Lincoln Riley's assistants will still be on the field, though?
See, I'm not sure who of his assistants is coming over with him to USC. I would probably assume that many of those guys are going to be gone. I don't know.
This is when it gets awkward.
Yeah. I mean, I would think if I'm Bob Stoops, you need those coaches there because Bob Stoops doesn't have any coaches he can just plug right now to be like, come on over. I need your help coaching. I wouldn't think.
This is when it gets awkward. Okay. Because look at what happened at Notre Dame with Tommy Rees. He was like basically in this weird spot. Is he staying? Is he going to go with Brian Kelly? And he had to have that emotional conference with his team and be like, I'm here, guys. I can't talk too much about it, but I'm here. Meanwhile, this is a couple days before. If some things work out in their favor, Notre Dame could be playing for a national championship. I've never seen that before. That's got to be a first.
I mean, Casey,
a team has a chance at the national championship, and the players don't even know who their coach is, like, or their assistants. That's incredible.
It is incredible. They went 11-1, and you're right. At the time, they were still very much in the conversation for going to the playoffs. And to be honest, had Georgia taken care of business and beaten Bama, it probably would be in the playoffs.
I'll one up you. That could have just played out like it did if Baylor doesn't make that goal line stand, and Oklahoma State, like, what wasn't that a big one too? Didn't that play into it? Like,
So
I feel like that goal line stand cost Notre Dame a championship.
no, well, so in the
Or did
final,
that help Notre Dame? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
in the final, yeah. So I think it helped Notre Dame because right
It
now
helped Notre Dame. Okay.
Notre Dame is 5. So like
Okay.
they would have probably been in had Bama lost.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So all that needed to happen was Bama somehow lost, and Notre Dame, with how everything played out, if Bama had lost and UGA won, then Notre Dame would have been in the championship, right?
But like, yeah, but like, how crazy is that for Notre
That's
Dame?
crazy.
Like the
That's
school,
bananas.
like
That's
how
bananas.
crazy is that Notre Dame gets into the playoffs and their head coach leaves the Notre Dame job? Some people think that's like one of the top jobs in college football. Your coach left to go to
Okay.
LSU, and you don't even have a coach to coach the team in the playoffs. That's crazy.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it came so close to happening because all that really needed to happen was, I mean, Notre Dame, here's what I was thinking. After Baylor beat Oklahoma State with that insane goal line stand, then Notre Dame's playoff chances increased like crazy because if Houston would have won, if Alabama would have won, I mean, if Alabama would have lost, if Houston would have won, or if somehow Iowa would have beat Michigan, like there was 3 chances. If all
Yeah.
3 of those games didn't go against the Irish, like they did. I mean, Notre Dame is in the national championship conversation, 1 game away without a head coach.
And
That's
the crazy thing is, Casey, they probably would have. And I know we're playing coulda, shoulda, woulda here, but they probably would have been playing. Say Cincinnati beats Houston like they do. They may have been playing Notre Dame versus Cincinnati, and they probably would have beaten Cincinnati. Like a lot of Notre Dame fans would have loved that matchup.
oh my
You're
gosh.
telling me,
And then you're talking about the Cincinnati coach almost like guaranteed. They're saying he's going to go to Notre Dame.
yeah, man. There was a lot of different scenarios
Woo!
playing out, but I think it's crazy, and it puts your staff in a crazy position because LSU, they wanted you. Like Brian Kelly, LSU wanted you. So like you're having these conversations with your agents and whatever, and you go. That puts your team and your players and your coaches in a weird situation because your coaches are focused on the next game or the offseason or the potentially making it to the playoffs. And you're just going to tell them, well, look, I got this job to LSU. Are y'all coming with me or not? Like, let's go. And it's like those coaches have had so much invested into Notre Dame. That's unfair for you to be like, let's just go. We're leaving. He got this big contract, I think like $90 million he's getting from LSU. And you just expect your guys that have rode with you for this entire time to just drop everything they're doing with Notre Dame and go with you. And for Tommy Rees, for Marcus Freeman, they were like, no, I am staying here. I'm invested. I love this team. Like we can do this on our own. And it's probably like a bad breakup, the way that it ended and fractured. But, what did you expect was going to happen? Like, I almost wish there were rules to this, and there is no rules to these moves in college football with coaches or players.
Yeah.
But I just wish LSU, if you wanted Brian Kelly, could you not have waited till they were done with their season?
I don't know. I don't think they wanted to risk it. And
I know signing day is coming up, and you want to coach in for that, but like,
yeah, no, it's in there. I don't blame LSU. It's they're doing what they do within their system. It's within the right for them to go after Brian Kelly right away. I'm just thinking, man, Brian Kelly has been at Notre Dame a long time, and they came close to winning a national championship on more than one occasion. So I thought he was really destination program, never going to leave kind of guy. So honestly, I love the unscripted reality TV aspect of college football with like how much unexpected things can happen. And this season could have been one that would have just been unreal. If you could see Marcus Freeman in the national championship game and Brian Kelly sitting at home watching it it would have just been too good for words, like stranger than fiction.
can you imagine that though? That's a good kind of thing to think about there. It's like kind of funny in a way.
The history books is not going to remember how close it came to being one of the most incredible endings to a season ever. The history books won't remember it because what's going to happen is Alabama's going to smoke Cincinnati, and Alabama's going to go on to win another championship. That's what's going to happen. And no one and people at the end of the game are going to complain again. The mainstream fair weather fans going to go, and the pundits are going to go, I'm so sick of Alabama winning national championships and rolling over everyone and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's not interesting, but we could have came so close to the most interesting finish in college football history.
Well, let's talk about that right now, real quick. We'll get into the college football playoff picture here. So, number one, Alabama, they're 12-1. They're playing Cincinnati, 13-0. They're number 4. Cincinnati had that big win against Notre Dame at Notre Dame up in South Bend. They beat Houston. They're an American team, but Bama by far probably is the story of this whole college football playoff picture here, because Bama, they had 5 wins against ranked opponents this season. The biggest win, I would actually argue their biggest win probably came against Auburn the week before the Georgia game when they won 24-22 against Auburn. That was like a 4 overtime game. The Iron Bowl has never gone in overtime before, and they just willed themselves to victory in that game. And I'll argue if they lost that game, I think some folks were hoping that they'd be out of the picture, out of the conversation of the playoffs. But honestly, I still think a 2-loss Bama probably still would have gotten in somehow. But they won. They did what they had to do. And then they beat the brakes off of Georgia, 41-24.
And they're going to beat the brakes off of Cincinnati.
Yeah, I don't know that one's going to be cute at all. I mean, that could be a pretty big win. I'm thinking
that's going to be a game you stop watching in the second half.
My prediction would be Bama probably 53, Cincinnati 13 or something like that.
Cincinnati's going to get steamrolled, and I hate to say it because I love the underdogs, but the much more intriguing matchup is going to be Georgia-Michigan.
Yeah, I think that is
Georgia. Who the heck wants to watch Georgia right now? Like, they just got crushed. Everyone watched that game. It's like, oh man, you get crushed, and now you're gonna get a chance at Michigan. It's wild.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good game, dude. It's
gonna be a good game. Don't get me wrong, it's gonna be a good game. But when you see Georgia get crushed, like they got crushed, you're just like, it takes a little of the excitement out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. I mean, Georgia. So I'm going to talk about them for just a second here. Georgia this season, up until that Bama game, Georgia was limiting opponents to only 6.91 points per game. So they weren't even scoring a touchdown, an extra point against Georgia. But the 24 points scored by Georgia in the Bama game, that was the second lowest point total they've had all season offensively. And Georgia and Bama put up 41 points against Georgia. So everything Georgia built this season, everything that we thought we knew about that program and how dominant this program looked, it was all a lie. It was all a lie in the very last game. We were riding with Georgia this whole way, Casey, and Bama just embarrassed them very, very bad.
How did Georgia hide like that in the SEC?
I mean, Georgia, so if we look at some of the teams that they beat, and you call it hiding, which might be fair because they played Clemson this season. Clemson was ranked. We know Clemson turned out to be a pretender this year. You know, at the start of the season, they played Clemson. I think they were number 3 at the time. Clemson
was hot when they played them, but they had an awful season. And the entire ACC was really, really down.
Yeah, Georgia beat them by 3 points. Then they played Arkansas, Auburn, and Kentucky. Those are 3 ranked teams this season. They played them back to back to back. And Kentucky was
you survived that. That's incredible. That's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a cakewalk in the SEC. Some will say it's not that difficult in the SEC East compared to the West, certainly, which that could be the case here. We thought Georgia was real, and Bama just exposed them, man. And I'm not going to call them frauds. Like, I'm not going to call them frauds.
They're not frauds. They're not frauds.
If they play Bama again and get beat as bad as they got beat a couple weeks ago, they were definitely frauds.
They're not frauds up into the SEC championship game. I mean, they didn't hide. You beat. I mean, every game you just mentioned, that Arkansas, Auburn, Kentucky stretch, those games weren't close. I'm like, Georgia did what they had to do. They won the games on their schedule. You're right. I mean, the thing is, like, yeah, they played like Georgia Tech in the last game and Charleston Southern. Like, they got some real easy matchups at the end, and I don't know, man. I honestly think Michigan is going to be able to handle them.
I do too.
Yeah. And then honestly, the matchup, the dream matchup is Michigan Alabama. That is a dream matchup. If you could see Michigan somehow coming off and winning that, I mean, that would just be incredible.
I think that'd be incredible for a lot of college football lovers. I mean, you're talking about blue bloods right there, Michigan and Bama. I would consider Bama a blue blood, back in the day. And
Yeah.
like if Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh is John Harbaugh, right? Or Jim? It's Jim Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh is a Ravens coach.
Yeah, I know you love John, but like if Jim is able to
Riverboat John.
Yo, man, that game was crazy. You were watching that Steelers game. That was wild, bro.
Wild game. How about wait, finish your thought though.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish. So if Harbaugh is able to win a game against Georgia and able to make it to the championship game, man, that's a big boost for that program. Michigan football means a lot to a lot of different people just for what they mean to college football. Like that's a big program. And if they're able to do the unthinkable, beat Georgia, beat Bama, 2 SEC schools back to back, that's like big for not only Michigan, but for the Big Ten brand, man. That's a huge win.
Yeah, I think the Southern schools, like the country, like your casual football fan, he's done with the Southern schools. He's like, Ohio State, they're the only one that isn't in the South that always seems to be competing recently. But for whatever reason, the country always like thinks that college football is too Southern. I mean, I hear that all the time. I'm like, yeah, it's just a bunch of the Southeast states, running away with it every year. And then, Michigan and Ohio State maybe. But I think a lot of fans, if it gets down to Michigan versus Alabama, a lot of fans are going to be rooting for Michigan. A, they want to see a Northern team compete. And B, because they're sick of seeing Nick Saban win a national championship every single year.
Yeah, man. And we got so close. There was the Arkansas game that was really close this season. And then that was followed by the Auburn game. It looked like Auburn had Bama dead to rights. I was like, this game is over. And they came back and they won. I feel like if you let Bama into the playoffs, they're in the door now. There's no way that they're going to miss and mess up this opportunity, man. Saban is, for the most part, pretty money when it comes to playoffs appearances and winning national championships. And I think they've got some great chances to do that. They're going to steamroll Cincinnati. You called that. Yeah. And if Michigan or Georgia can make it a game in that championship game, I mean, I would love to see it. But what we saw a couple weeks ago, Bama versus Georgia, that was not fun to watch. I actually turned away from it because this was a waste of my time.
Yeah, the only thing that was interesting about that game was seeing how money Bryce Young is. That dude is incredible. Did you see? Oh my gosh, one of my favorite plays of the whole college football season was, and I always wish they would do it more in the NFL because I've watched more NFL. But Bryce Young, he had that no look like he was an and one mixtape tour on the college football. Remember the old Dave Chappelle skit where he was doing the and one tour, like in different sports? Bryce Young had a no look lateral. It was so perfect, dude. I rolled the tape. Intern.
Bryce Young.
Dial that up, intern.
My intern's at daycare right now, so I'll have to get her on that when she gets home. But Bryce Young, he's a special talent, man. And he's a California kid, man.
The no-look lateral? Are you kidding me? Do you know how many times I've watched a NFL game where there's a guy getting wrapped up in a tackle and there's someone right there that he could lateral it to? And I'm just like, do it. But they're too scared because, the turnovers.
When it's done cleanly, a lateral looks very impressive. Like
a lateral is the most exciting thing in football in life.
And if you're a game changer like that, I mean, Bryce Young, he's doing everything he can to win, man. That kid's a winner, man. And I think isn't he up for the Heisman?
Listen, college football fans, let's be honest. Yeah, he's gonna win the Heisman without a doubt, right?
I mean, he's got a shot. He's got a shot. I don't know, man. It's gonna be
Yeah, he's gonna win the Heisman. Bryce Young, Aiden Hutchinson is the only other like person I feel like in the conversation from Michigan, right?
Hutchinson. There's a lot of love for him, man. Right now,
A defensive player winning the Heisman.
A lot of people want him to win, man. And I'm not actually sure. I don't have a vote. Hopefully someday Cherry Pick can get a vote to the Heisman. That'd be a huge.
Give
honor.
that guy, give CherryPickin Entertainment a vote. Give him two votes.
What's that?
Give him 2 votes.
Yeah, man. I wish, but I'm gonna be watching that ceremony. I actually don't know who would win. I don't.
I think it's going to be Bryce Young. He's the most electric player in college football. He replaces Mac Jones. I mean, how do you replace?
He's having one hell of a season on the NFL level, bro. I know you following them.
He's great. Yeah, he's a system quarterback, I think, right now because he's so young. He is by far the best rookie quarterback. And then you talk about Bryce Young just stepping in there and knocking it out of the park. I mean, that's why Alabama is so dangerous. Their recruiting, their depth, it's insane.
Yeah, man. I'm going to be curious to see who wins that. Who are the other candidates? You have that list up for the Heisman?
Oh, the only ones I can think of is I think it's coming down to Bryce Young and Aiden Hutchinson.
You might be right there. Yeah, I can't think of the other 2 individuals right now.
Give that Heisman to Bryce Young right now. Are you kidding me? Stop. That dude is electric. Is he the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft?
He just got the starting job. Isn't he like an underclassman? I don't even know that he's eligible.
When he comes out, I'm saying.
But that's crazy. Back-to-back Alabama Heisman winners.
He
I don't
won't
know
be
that.
this year.
Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you're saying someday?
I'm saying he's not going to go to the draft this year, but I think he's going to win Heisman.
We'll see, man. I'd be curious about who's going to win that, but I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see, how these teams do in the playoffs. I'm really excited. I'm actually glad you hopped on here. What are you looking up something?
Yeah, I'm looking up your current odds for the Heisman.
Yeah, let me know.
I got the favorite right now is Bryce Young, followed by Aiden Hutchinson. And then the other 2 in the conversation is Pitt quarterback Kenny Pickett and CJ Stroud, quarterback
from Ohio State. Yeah, so he's you can eliminate CJ Stroud, but he'll be in the conversation in the future for sure.
Stroud would have been up there if they had beat Michigan for sure.
Yeah, and Pitt as well. So you're right. Yeah, it really is going to come down to those 2 Bama and Michigan players to see who's going to win it ultimately. I would love for Hutchinson to win it, but because we just don't see that a defensive player winning it. What Charles Woodson won it, decades ago. But I don't know.
That feels like so long ago when Charles Woodson won it.
But it could be Michigan's time, man. And you get another Heisman winner there. You get potentially a shot at the national championships if you can beat Georgia. I mean, anything could happen, man. And I'm excited for that because I don't dislike Michigan. I live in the Big Ten country. We've lived in the Big Ten country for a while, or at least I have, and that's all we see. It's a big deal. But then when they get to this big stage, they don't really perform that well outside of Ohio State, certainly. But overall, they kind of were underwhelming this year, I would say.
Michigan?
No, Michigan was great. But I'm saying
they were great, but what the heck happened in that Michigan State game? Didn't they get drilled?
Yeah, they lost against Michigan State this year, and there was a lot of
Wasn't it lopsided?
But I want to say they lost by 4 points or something. Wasn't it close towards the end?
I can't remember how that shook out, but if it was it was a close game. All right. So they didn't lose by that much to Michigan State, 33-37. So yeah, the Wolverines were in that game. They've been in every game. They've obviously won every game except for that, but they've been in every game. There's no blowouts on their schedule. Of course, they haven't played someone as quality as Alabama, though.
Yeah, I like Jim Harbaugh that he's brought back the running game. Michigan was, known for some great runners.
Drop some Michigan running backs.
What's that? Drop some?
Yeah.
Mike Hart, remember him?
Oh shoot, yeah.
Mike Hart.
What about Anthony A-Train Davis?
Oh yeah, man, he was a beast too.
2001 NFL Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I got his bobble right here, man.
A-Train. Who else? Come on, Michigan running backs. Send me some more.
I got A-Train right here. You see that?
Oh wow! Look at that.
Yeah, man. And that's
Mike
where
Hart was a hard running back, but he didn't go very high in the draft, I feel like.
I don't think he did. But like that's just Midwest football though, running the
Midwest
ball.
football.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wisconsin has some great runners. Penn State has had some good running backs as well. Like that's all they do is run the football. Michigan runs it well. So I feel like if you're gonna do well in the Big Ten, you gotta certainly be able to run the ball well. Ohio State is a team that can do it all. Like they can run well and they've got great receivers, great quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm glad it's somebody else in the Big Ten this year. Michigan is seemingly back and they've got an opportunity to win the national championship. I'm in to see how far they can go.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's going to be exciting. I mean, any predictions for the championship game? Have you released your cherry picking national champion yet?
No, I haven't released my predictions yet for the bowl games. I need to probably do that this weekend, figure out what I'm thinking. But I think we've had some good conversation here. You've definitely made me think a little bit about Michigan and their opportunity. Like they could beat Georgia. I'm not saying they will because Georgia's defense is they were pretty good. I mean, the Bama game showed me some stuff and showed me some weaknesses, but that's going to be a very tough game. I have no idea who I'm picking, man, but I'm going to spend some time this weekend. How about you?
You know, I'm looking forward to the return of the XFL. Bring it back, run it back. COVID knocked it out. I want to see more XFL. Pro football is my game. I want to see how it all shakes out because the reason I'm thinking of the XFL is because Bob Stoops was a coach in the XFL before he, the season got canceled and then he coached now he's coaching in that bowl game.
Wait, the XFL, are they coming back? I thought they folded. The
XFL, latest I heard was your boy, The Rock bought into it, and now it's going to go up. They're going to get it back on.
Wait, so the XFL with Vince McMahon, it kind of folded.
Alpha Entertainment, bro. Get it right.
It folded, but then The Rock came in and was like, I'm going to help this and make it viable again.
Yeah, The Rock stepped in to buy the he's like part owner now. Alpha Entertainment is the parent company of the XFL. That's the company that Vince McMahon started as the LLC that oversees it. And then I believe the latest story that I heard was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson bought into ownership of the XFL, and now they're just trying to figure out the logistics on how they're going to bring it back.
I mean, I would love to see some more football and The Rock being involved with that. That's a big name. I mean, he's huge in entertainment. He doesn't fail at things. I feel like I can't think of something that he's failed at.
I think he bought it straight up. I think for $15 million. I'm seeing stories that he bought out the XFL parent company, Alpha Entertainment LLC, for $15 million. So that's something to just keep on your radar, football fans. Speaking of Bob Stoops, speaking of XFL, speaking of, pro football, and a lot of these college players are so exciting. And then because the NFL is just so cutthroat to get into, I like having there be a secondary league where you can remember some of these stars. Some of these guys who are hanging onto the bench could be superstars in the XFL. And, these are guys that played at big programs in college football. They have a huge built-in fan base. I know Mountaineers in the pros, that's a huge thing for fans. Whenever the West Virginia Mountaineer players do something good in the NFL, I'll get a text from my buddy and he'll be like, "Oh, did you see da-da-da-da-da had a pick six against da-da-da-da-da?" And we'll be like, "Yeah, of course." So I want to see guys like Will Grier play in the XFL and star. He's like the third string quarterback right now, I think in Houston. So it's like, I want to see those guys on the field, man. They had glory years in college, and I want that glory back. And I think all the college football fans will back me on that. We want to see this XFL thing thrive.
When are the games supposed to be held, Casey? Do you know?
I don't know, because there's a lot of legal things to sort out with the XFL right now. Unprecedented cancellation of the season. Oliver Luck, speaking of West Virginia, I guess that's maybe why I follow this so closely, is because Oliver Luck was our athletic director, the father of Andrew Luck, and he was commissioned to be the head of the XFL. Vince McMahon in Alpha Entertainment paid him millions of dollars to be the commissioner. Now, when the season ended abruptly in 2020 during COVID, his contract became in a big dispute because the Alpha Entertainment was on the line to pay him a lot of money. Well, there wasn't any football being played. So Alpha Entertainment had a hard time justifying paying them millions of dollars. Insurance, I'm sure, became involved. Lawyers heavily involved. Oliver Luck is now suing the XFL. I believe he is in a lawsuit. I'm not sure how that's going. So there's a lot to untangle with the XFL, but I'm optimistic it's going to come back.
Damn, that's cool, man. Yeah, I would definitely like to see some football. I would like to see another league try to survive, because for these players, like you said, they were household names in college, and they may be buried on the depth chart right now, but if they had an opportunity to play and maybe get more exposure, and maybe it could be like a minor league type situation for the pros, for the big leagues in the NFL. Like, everybody wants a shot to play football, and if The Rock can make it a viable option and make it exciting, because the XFL was exciting back in the day. I'm not gonna lie. It was.
You put your name on something,
Yeah.
and you're Dwayne The Rock Johnson. If you put your name on something, it's going to be successful.
I agree with you.
That's the
He
mentality of
doesn't fail.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah,
He doesn't attach his name to loser stuff. This thing is going to work out.
Damn, man. Well, I'm excited for that. We should do a little pod for that, man. Like an XFL pod whenever they get this up and running.
We got to figure out what's going on with it. But yeah, I think it's coming back. I mean, Rocky Johnson didn't just pay $15 million to sit around and let that asset just decline. You're going to see pro football being played in the spring. That's when it needs to be, if it's going to be successful, I think.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm excited for that.
Give me a merger. Give me
merger.
a damn merger. I want to see this work. And I know there's so much to untangle, but merge me the CFL with the XFL. I want to see, that might be the only way that it can survive, because you need to have some sort of built-in equity in these teams, brand equity. You need to have teams that fans know about. And you give me a Toronto Argonauts game versus an XFL team, you're going to get some interest going on.
That would be crazy, actually. That actually is a good idea.
It's so much to sort out, but I'm telling you, if they can make this happen, a second league can happen, but it has to involve a merger with the CFL. I've been on record saying that. Check the tweets.
Well, it'll be on this podcast forever. So I may have to cut that up in a little clip and put that as my little intro.
Yeah, man. Clip that. My XFL. I mean, we could even just release this XFL conversation as its own thing, because XFL football, I've been a fan since 2000, man. I know the XFL through and through. And when it came back, I was excited as all get up.
Well, here's what we'll do. We'll keep it on this podcast, but I would like to get back with you, maybe do an XFL podcast or like an episode of it. Like, I think you've got really engaging thoughts there, and I would love to dive into this potential second league. I mean, we could be on the forefront. We could be one of the first folks to really be all in on that. And I would love an opportunity to rap with you a little bit longer,
We could talk XFL football.
Yeah, man. We should definitely do it, dude. But Casey, let everybody know where they can find you. I mean, I appreciate your time today. It felt like old times kind of hopping back on the mic with you. But can you tell me can you tell the listeners where they can find you and your content?
Very simple. You can find my website at clearcontender.com. Clear Contender, just like it sounds, .com. Social media will all be there. If you want to follow me personally, my Twitter account is at Casey Talks Life. You can message me there, and we can get a little conversation going. I love the XFL. I think it's a natural offshoot of college football. I do, because the pros, it can be tough. You see talented guys, and because of their size, they just can never play in the NFL. They'll never play on Sunday, but they have so much talent. And it's like there needs to be a secondary place for them to shine.
And I feel like these days, Casey, I know it was probably different back in the day where if a player gets drafted, and you're probably talking about folks that are probably undrafted, free agents, whatever, but like even players that get drafted that were on a bench or on a roster back in like the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, they were getting at least 3-4 years to mature and to get ready. These days, it's like you're
not
drafted.
happening.
You got to go.
Even if you're a quarterback, look at anyone. I mean, look at what's going on in Jacksonville. Is Trevor Lawrence going to ever be able to recover from this nonsense? I think he will. I mean, because you look at Joe Burrow, and I think he's doing okay out in Cincy. But, I mean, you're right. It's just some of these guys, they can't handle that, get thrown in there right away. And,
there's a very short leash, man. Like there's
a demand for it. Yeah. There's a demand for it. There's a demand for professional football outside of the NFL. But it's not being handled well right now. And a lot of it is because of COVID. The XFL was rocking and rolling, and COVID came along and knocked it out. That's part of business. That's part of life. Unexpected acts of God, that's going to happen. So what happens now? How do people regroup? You've got to make, there's got to be compromises. People have to make sacrifices. But if it's going to work, if there's going to be a rival league to the NFL that can support all these awesome college players that just don't have a home in the 32 NFL teams, they've got to find a way to make it work. And I have some serious opinions on this. I think the CFL needs to be a big part of this, and the CFL needs to change some things about how they operate. So just to tease maybe the next conversation, the CFL needs to make some changes on how they operate if they're going to expand and merge with the XFL and really everyone is going to win if this can work out. Everyone will win. The players, the executives, there's a win-win scenario that could take place. The fans, but like I said, it's going to be nothing but hard work to get it done.
Well, Casey, we'll leave the fans with that little taste of what you just said there. I would love to get you on the podcast to talk about that. We certainly can do it this holiday season, man. I got the time. If you got the time, we could hop on the pod, talk about that, talk about anything, really. I mean, I enjoy having you on here. I appreciate your time. We are cutting this up. I'm going to drop this hopefully later tonight. We'll get a new Cherry Pickin podcast out there. But I'm glad you reached out to me to hop on here, because you were like, yo, man, I got some thoughts, especially about this coaching carousel that is happening right now. We didn't even get a chance to talk about Temple football. They have a vacancy. Rod Carey, he's gone. There's a vacancy right now. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm excited to see who they fill in that position. There is a lot happening in this coaching carousel that we didn't even get into the meat of, but it's going to be a crazy offseason. It's not done yet. We got college bowl games coming up. I'm excited for that. And I'm looking forward to the playoffs as well. I mean, who's going to be in there? We got Cincinnati, we got Alabama, we got Georgia, we got Michigan. It's anybody's guess who's going to be there. I'm excited to see it play out. And Casey, maybe we'll talk a little bit more college football once that first game happens in the playoffs. Once that semifinal matchup happens, I would love to get you back.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, man. Well, thank you for hopping on here. Thank you to the Cherry Pickin listener at home. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the downloads. Most importantly, I appreciate your friendship. Be well this year, this holiday season. Love one another, and just find that peace. But I'll be back sooner than later. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Casey, thank you for your friendship, and we will holler at y'all in the near future. Take care, everybody. Peace.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you again for tuning into my Cherry Pickin podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to subscribe to my show and drop me a rating on Apple Podcasts. All of my digital content can be found at the website CherryPickinSports.com. And if you are looking to interact with me via social media, my Twitter handle is @Cherry_Pickin. That's PICKIN. On my Twitter, you'll also find a link to my blog where I post my weekly college football predictions and analysis. I can also be reached via email at cherrypickinsports@gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out to me regarding what you like about this podcast or about what content you'd like to hear more of on future episodes. I sincerely thank you for your support, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Take care.